Hey everyone, this is Lucid. I'm going to be doing another Let's Play series for the Nation EA-Hinnom in the game Dominions 4. I'm already at about turn 11 on this game, and I decided I'd turn it into a Let's Play. So this first few episodes will be catching up to where I am in the game. And yeah, so the mods I have on are Lucid's Thematic Gem Gen, which gives you more of the temporary Gem Gen items like Fire in a Jar or Clam of Pearls. Next we have Well-Behaved Wizard mod, and this gives you slightly better spellcasting AI when your mages go off script. Not strictly necessary, but I put it in my games. And finally we have Worthy Heroes mod. This mod gives you kind of better unique heroes for almost every race in the game. Interestingly enough, it's kind of a buff to some of the weaker nations too. Interestingly enough, it doesn't help Hinnom at all, but anyway, I put it in all my multiplayer games. It's a lot of fun. So what I'm going to do this game is we're going to go through the nation overview. So I'm just going to load up a map real quick. And we're going to put in the nation Hinnom, and we're going to talk about them, and kind of what my strategy is going to be, what some strategies are. And after I kind of go through general strategies, we'll look at each troop individually. So you're a nation where you have kind of three tiers of units. Your top tier are big size 5 giants, Raphite giants. They eat your population and cause unrest. So they're kind of torch the earth, burn everything to the ground units. So if you go with a strategy that focuses on them, you usually don't want them in your own territory, so you're usually very aggressive. Which tends to work out okay because they're super duper buff. Next we have the Avites. These are size 3 units, so they're bigger than humans. They've got very good stats. And size 3 is a great size unit, because the second you go to size 4, you can't fit 2 of those units in a square anymore. So size 3, you can get 2 Avites in a square, and they've got just phenomenal stats, great armor. Unfortunately, they're not sacred or anything, otherwise that would be really overpowered, but they're a really solid unit. And then you have Horites. Horites, I think, are size 3, though they may be size 4. I have to go back and check. I think they're size 3. But, yeah, they're basically kind of slaves to the Avites and the Raphites, and they tend to not have any armor. They tend to have poor stats, but they have some. They're very low resource cost, so you can pump a lot out real quickly. And they have some niche uses, like some of them have nets. And then your nation prefers heat. So for magic paths, you have phenomenal, probably the best magic access in the whole game. Full stop. Best magic access in the whole game. And you have good access to astral, great access to blood, right? And some access to death, which are the most powerful late game spells. I mean the late game paths. And you have access to all of them. The only path you don't have any access to is water. And your priests are pretty horrible. However, you can perform blood sacrifices. So that's our nation. There's a few ways to build it. One way is you could do a blessed. Now, your only blessed troops are your giants. You have recruitable units, and you have we'll talk about the specific units, but you have really strong super combatant commanders that are sacred. Usually if you go a bless, you want to do something like this. You can do it with an Earth Mother. You don't have access to the monolith, but you could also do I think there's one other one here. Yeah, you can also use the Great White Bull, which has Earth nature. Probably will be a little cheaper, though this lady has one more Dominion. So yeah, super strong. If you do this, your sacreds are going to be not your sacreds, your size 5 giants. The moment you recruit them, They can maybe take an indie province. They can take weak indie provinces by themselves. And a couple of them could probably take hard indie provinces if you put them close to each other. But you'll normally recruit Raphite Giants with them, and a squad of 5 Raphite Giants with this Bless on them is absolutely horrifying. Absolutely horrifying. The problem is you kind of have to trash your scales if you want to take this. Like, you'll have to go... Like, you always want luck on this nation, because your heroes, your unique heroes are really, really good. I mean... Actually, we could go magic. So you could do something like this. This would be a good build. Well, actually, you really don't want it that low. You probably do something like this. You can't trash... You need a lot of resources, so you can't trash Sloth all the way. But with less income, maybe this would be... Oh, you need growth. Yeah. You could do something like this. You already have bad research, so this will make you have worse. So that's the problem if you go for this Bless, is you end up... It's hard... You can't have good scales, right? You're going to make compromises you don't want to make. Like, you need luck because you want the heroes... Because you have the best... That's the other thing with Hinnom. You have the best unique heroes in the game. Full stop. You get, I think, 5 or 6 heroes, and each of them has blood plus another path up to 4 or 5. So, yeah. And they're size 5 super combatants. So, yeah, they're pretty sick. I mean, it's basically like getting a free pretender, but it can happen 5 times. And they're all in different paths. So your late game magic access is really unbelievable. So anyway, yeah, you could do something like this. This would work. You're gonna have slow research, but your guys are good coming out of the gate. The other thing you can do, and this is what I did, was I went... One thing you'll notice, so that you're gonna have real starting problems, right? Like, you're probably, if you do this... Your expansion at the beginning is not going to be lightning fast, right? You're going to be relying on mercenaries because you're not going to have enough resources to recruit enough guys. Yeah. But it'll be okay because your Bless is good. Once you get a few of your super combatants out, you'll be doing good. The thing is, your super combatants don't need this buff, and so that's the reason why I didn't take it. So here's the build I went with. Something more like this. Wait, is that it? Oh, here we go. 4 and 5. Was this what I did? Something like this. I don't know if this was exactly it. What did I do? Oh, yeah. I did... Yeah. Here's what I did. I needed some productivity, and so I did a swap on magic. Alright, so there's a few good things about this. One is this guy's a pretty good, not an amazing, but a pretty damn good initial expansion god. So he can even, 95% of the time, he can blind expand out of the capital. 5% of the time, he'll die, and then you're gonna cry. So, yeah. Anyway, so this is the guy I picked. Actually, I'll just load up my actual pretender. And we'll go through all the units. And then I'll just show you how he expands. This isn't the real game, obviously. So this is your starting army. You get light infantry, who have spears, javelins. Actually, I'll talk about that in a minute. Let's go through all the troops. So, you have Horite Shamans, who have a research malice, a huge research malice. So, they're horrible in the lab. None of these single paths are very useful on the battlefield, right? You can't really do anything with any of these. So, they're useless on the battlefield. Unless you put a fair amount of gems into items. So you may say, why would you ever recruit one of these? Well, first of all, you're a nation with very few cross paths, so this gives you some cross paths, though they're not even very useful cross paths. What he is a phenomenal site searcher, and he's good at forging. You have good things you can forge at E1, you have good things you can forge at N1, and good things to forge at Death 1. So this is not a researcher, this is a forager and a site searcher, and he's quite cheap. In a pinch, you can put gear on him and use him for other things too. You know, like, you might even be able to catch Strength of Gaia with the right gear. Okay, then we have a scout who's kind of overpriced. You have a commander who's got 80 leadership, which is good because you get a morale bonus for up to 3 squads. But he's expensive, 90 gold. You're probably not going to buy any of these. You'll use commanders. Thing is, you don't really need big squads, right? Because you don't have cheap troops. You have a lot of elite troops. So high leadership is nice for the morale bonus, but you don't really need to carry that many people around. And what is 1 morale, right? Well, it can matter, by the way, but you can get a commander for half this. Then we have 2 priests who are Holy 1. In some ways, they're extremely redundant. You have to like study them to even figure out what's different. They're 70 gold, so this one's 70 gold, so it's 10 more gold than a normal priest, but it has Wasteland Survival, marginally useful for mobility, and more hit points. Yeah, that's it. Then we have this one, 80 gold, so 20 more gold than a normal priest, right? But other priests, normal priests I believe have some leadership, and so does this one. So really, if you want the equivalent of another priest, right, you're going to be paying 20 more gold, and yeah. This is what you'll be using a lot if you use or what you may be using if you use the Bless strategy, and you're not using super combatants to ferry your Graphite warriors around. You may be using these because they are the only priests you have with leadership that are not big, nasty, pop-killing giants. Then we have the Acha. The Acha is a Nature 2 mage. It's your only Nature 2 mage. And extremely importantly, it's a healer. Very few nations have access to healers. So it's very rare and very valuable. And it's extremely synergistic with your nation, because your nation is a bunch of elite troops who are going to get a lot of experience. And most of them aren't sacred, like a lot of them aren't sacred. And so your non-sacred ones, and even your sacred ones, are going to be getting afflictions. And so keeping your elite troops healthy without afflictions is super valuable. So these guys have a good role to play. Next we have the Ami. An Ami is your main researcher. They can be a fire, air, earth, or astral 2, right? So you don't get any of these as cross paths. You're never going to get a earth astral cross path. You're going to get 2 in any of these. And it's your only access to air. Your super combatants get the other cross paths, but this is your only access to air. And yeah, so if you want to be forging alquils, you'll need a couple of these. Probably one to site search and one to forge. The other ones have niche uses. The Earth 2 is a pretty good battle mage. The Astral 2 is a really good fluffer. Yeah. The Fire 2 is also a pretty good battle mage. So there we go. Then we have our first of the Raphite giants. These are size 5. All of the Raphite giants do some kind of pop kill. So this one is going to kill 20 population a turn in the province it's in, and it will cause 2 unrest, which if you patrol down will cause additional pop kill. It's a priest, it's blood 1, and you have the traditional Raphite cross paths, which are all of your Raphites can have a fire, earth, or astral random. This one only gets level 1, right? These are not super combatants. You could put a ton of gems worth of items on them and they would become super combatants. Alternatively, if you have a strong bless, like a really strong bless, and you drop some armor on them, these could be light raiding chassis, but they're not going to hold up in heavy combat. And they're pretty expensive. 240 is not cheap for somebody who... I mean, there are way better thugs in the game for 240. And then they're not great as blood hunters, even though they're your lowest blood path mage, because A, they're expensive, and B, they pop kill and cause unrest. These guys are your best blood mages, and they are your best early game super combatants, and arguably your best late game super combatants. They're extremely expensive. They're slow to recruit. 485 gold. They have just amazing stats. Look at this. There's nothing to complain about. 19 protection, 18 magic resistance, 24 strength, 15 attack, 18 defense. So they're really good. They've got fear. They have 2 in the Raphite cross path. I mean, in the Raphite magic paths. So they're going to be a +2. They're going to be 3 blood and then +2. What they also are, though, is good blood searchers with Blood Searcher 3. So if you want to commit these guys, they're capital only. But if you want to commit them to blood hunting, they're very, very good blood hunters. Of all the cross path, I mean, of all the paths, I think the fire ones are least useful. So what I'll end up doing a lot of times is have the fire Raphites do a lot of my blood hunting, and the other ones will be out there causing trouble. They're sacred, holy one, and they're also adept sacrificers. So you can blood sacrifice with this nation, but you have really weak priests, so you're only going to be able to sacrifice 1 slave at a time. Except with this you can do 4, which is phenomenal. So if you make it to late game, and you get a bunch of forts up, which is going to be tough, because you're a nation that's going to be upkeep constrained pretty quickly. So it'll be tough to have a ton of forts, but if you do it, or if you start out with high enough dominion, you can become a real dominion threat, right? Because you can be blood sacrificing a lot. Finally, we have the Bale, similar to the Raphite, I'm sorry, to the Melkort. He's a bit cheaper, right? A tiny bit cheaper. He's blood 2 instead of blood 3. Still holy 1, but he gets 3 in these paths with a small chance at a random. Which actually, this is one of your only real kind of cross path options. But you may get 1 a game, right? You'll probably, I don't know, you might summon 20 Bale in a very long game. And probably less. So you can get a cross path, but it's really nothing to count on at all. And if you get a cross path, your chance of getting a meaningful one like Earth Fire or Earth Astral are somewhat low. Anyway, it's cool. It adds a bit of flavor. I think it'd be cool if they added this cross path to all of your Raphite giants. This 10% chance. You would have... Maybe not to the... They should definitely add it to the Melkorts. I think that would make it a bit cooler. But these guys, since they're not capital only, that might be a bit overpowered. Okay, so that's that. On to the units. You've got these slaves. So slaves are half upkeep, but they have horrible stats and really horrible morale. And you don't have any great way of improving their morale. Like, you don't have taskmasters or people with inspiration. We have one dude with inspiration, but yeah, these guys suck. You might use them to hold up forts. That's about the only use I can think of them, or think for them. We now have our Horites. So the Horites are cavemen. Primitive man. You've got this one, a variety with a great club. Does a lot of damage, has an okay, not great attack. They're size 3, so you fit 2 of them in a square. Good hit points. Horrible protection. They're okay. These ones are interesting. These are the same with a net. So these are situationally useful against high defense units. Nets are really good against high defense. And then also pretty good against kind of thugs and super combatants. So use with care. They have furs too, so they're a little bit more resilient than their brothers. In the spear, you get a small chance of a repel versus a club where you really don't. And then finally, we have the Horite Champion, which really, if I got one, I think these are by far and away the best, the hunters with the net. Because you get a spear with the repel, and then you have furs. They're pretty high attrition, though, fighting indies. You have low defense, so you're going to get hit a lot. And you don't have to get hit that many times to lose all them hit points. Yeah, these guys pretty solid. You're not, you know, these are situational though. I don't really recruit them. Now we get on to the Avites. You have a few varieties. One is the light infantry. You start with these in your initial army. But they have a spear which is linked 4. So when you have a long weapon in conjunction with a shield, in conjunction with good armor, you're usually in good shape. So these are pretty damn effective at expanding against Indies with very few losses, even when significantly outnumbered. They also have a javelin, which is good and bad. It's good because it does a lot of damage, and it's bad because it tends to break up your formation, and you'll get guys caught out as they throw the javelins. So I don't know. I'm on the fence on this. I haven't actually figured out how I think about it, but what I have decided I do like is if you put these guys in the second row, then they'll fire off their javelin, and then they'll fill in gaps in the first row. So that's a kind of good use for them. This is a better version of the other troop, about the same gold. I think, is it exactly the same? Yeah, it's exactly the same gold, but you have better armor. You have better plate armor. Better chest armor. So your protection is 14 instead of 10 on average, but I think this was 8 protection for your other variety, so it's actually 5 more. Yeah, so pretty important. I would, unless you're resource constrained, I would always get this guy. Then we have the swordsman, who's very similar to the spearman, except I think he has 1 more defense. The spearman has 13 defense and 14 protection, and this guy has 1 more defense, same protection, I think similar other stats. He does slightly more damage, 21 versus 18, right? But this is piercing, which you ignore some armor, so it's arguable. You don't have repel though, so for initial expansion, not really as good. Maybe versus strong. Depending what army you're facing, this may be slightly better, slightly worse. You have the heavy archer, which actually has the highest protection of all of your Avites, 17. He's got a great bow, which is a really long-ranged, high-damage bow. So very good, and unlike a crossbow, you fire it every round. 12 ammunition's not a huge amount. But yeah, these guys are solid. The problem is their gold price, which is 30. I've never tried a strategy centered around them, but you probably could try it. Because they have really good protection and a high-damage weapon, you could potentially do something like Flaming Arrows, Wind Guide, have them fire off a bunch of stuff, and then close in melee. And potentially, you have your Astra Ami sitting behind them turning a Mithril while they're casting. Yeah. I mean, that could work. It would be... The problem is their defense is really low, and their attack's not great. So, yeah, they would tend to get kind of walloped. The attack and defense matters a lot in melee combat, so they would tend to kind of get walloped. Despite the fact they have good damage outlay and good protection. And so the comparison is, for 30 gold, you can have 1 of these, right? Or you could have 3 short bows. And if you've got Flaming Arrows up in Wind Guide, you kind of want 3 short bows, I'm not gonna lie. So, I don't know. That's why I've never really gone for a strategy around these guys. We've got a Hornblower who's got a siege bonus, which is nice and standard. So he gives morale to your troops. I find when I put them in armies, they have different move speed, 10, compared to like these guys with 11. I don't know. They end up making holes in the formation, which are kind of weaknesses, and they tend to die a lot too. I don't know. I don't use them much. Then you have a Charioteer. These guys are really expensive, 75 gold, but they're also pretty damn good. They're definitely a good unit. If they weren't so I kind of feel like they're a bit overpriced, but I say that cautiously because they're a size 5 trampler that has pretty good morale, high protection, and good defense. Like, that's pretty good, right? I mean, that's a good unit. And they've got decent attacks and a javelin. So, you can use them. the challenge with these guys is you usually need them in enough critical mass so they don't get swarmed. So depending who you're fighting, they can be really good too. They're particularly good versus high defense units. Or small elite units they would be really good against. Versus giants, they're not very good. So it depends who you're fighting. You can use them for initial expansion. I find they take higher attrition than other troops. Like the same amount of troops invested in Avite Spearmen I find is usually lower attrition. But it probably depends what ND type you're talking about. And then we have the Dawn Guard. So the Dawn Guard's a really strong infantry. Really strong. It's 50% more expensive than your other units. So you'll have 2 for every 3 of your other Avites. Your other Avites are 30 gold. A bit more resources too. Importantly, they have a Dawn Blade, which is a magic blade. So that's going to help cut through a lot of counters or thugs or things like that. So people drop Fog Warriors, who cares as much? You know, people drop Body Ethereal on some super combatant that's going to fight you. Yeah, good luck, right? People put up invulnerability, good luck. So yeah, they're really strong. They also have 1 better attack and 2 better defense than your normal swordsman. And they have a little bit, I think, more HP. What, 25? And 15 strength versus these guys, which are 24. Yeah, they have 1 more HP. And, yeah, they're super solid. You totally can go with just these guys for a little bit less and skip the magic weapon. If you look at the attack, 11-21, and these guys are 14-24. So you're going to have significantly more damage outlay with these. And better defense, and that extra 2 defense adds up. So I kind of like them. They're expensive, but I actually feel like they're worth it over the swordsman. And empirically, kind of testing it in the field, they seem to have, like, they have lower attrition, which kind of makes up for the increased gold cost, even in big battles. So, and then finally we have the Raphite Warrior. These are your sacred recruitable capital only units. You're going to have a hard time filling up a recruitment queue with these guys since they cost 53 resources apiece. Either build, whether you go Scales or Bless, you usually don't get your Dominion that high. And yeah. So, but I guess you could. I don't know. But certainly if you go a Bless, you don't need to, because you're not going to be recruiting that many of these guys out of your capital. They're fire resistant, which is cool. And then they're sacred. They don't have fear or anything, but they do have pop kill 20 and cause unrest, which is a ton when you get like 10 of these and then an army. They will be eating everything in that province they're in. They have 2 attacks, so the damage, one of them is magical, the same as the Dawn Guard. The other is Gore. They'll have a similar damage outlay, depending on the Bless you take, to a square of Dawn Guards, but they're significantly more expensive. Like 1 square of these guys is 115 gold, a square of Dawn Guards would be 90 gold. Though these would have less upkeep, kind of. Probably more upkeep when you consider the unrest and pop kill. So you could do a strategy around them, but yeah, that's not what I'm doing. So anyway, that's it. I think next episode we'll do the real game, and I'll show you initial expansion. Thanks everyone for watching.